After reports of chaotic shootouts in the Haitian capital late Wednesday, the police announced that they had killed 4 assassins and arrested 2 members of the commando that assassinated President Juvenal Moise. United States operatives were able to watch and hear journalist Julian Assange live via streaming when he was inside the Ecuadorian embassy in London. Jacob Zuma, the former president of South Africa, was taken into custody to begin serving a 15-month prison sentence for contempt of court. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Caracas, Venezuela, this is From the South. I am Janet Perez Moya. Let's begin. After reports of chaotic shootouts in the Haitian capital late Wednesday, the police announced that they had killed 4 assassins and arrested 2 members of the commando that assassinated President Juvenal Moise. Haiti's police chief, Leon Charles, said that the security force were in control of the situation, even as he acknowledged that other suspect members of the hit squad remain at large. Authorities did not identify those killed or in custody and offer no evidence of their involvement in Moise's death. Immediately after the president's death was confirmed, interim Prime Minister Claude Joseph closed the Port-au-Prince airport and declared a state of siege for 15 days. In less than 48 hours, Joseph went from being on the verge of being removed from the post to concentrating power in the country. On Monday, in an attempt to reach out the sectors of the oppositions, Moise had appointed Ariel Henry, a doctor who was not yet being sworn in, as prime minister.
Four mercenaries were killed. 2 were intercepted under our control. 3 policemen who had been taken hostage have been recovered. The First Lady is out of danger. She's being treated in Florida, and according to the information we have, her situation is stable.
As calls for foreign intervention to protect the democratic order in Haiti, the Organizations of American States has pledged its determination to work for what it termed the Haitian cause. As news of the assassinations of Haitian President emerged, the Colombian President Ivan Duque, notorious for his administration's human rights abuse, was quick to call the organization to send missions to Haiti. During an emergency meeting, the organization's Secretary General Luis Almagro, known for his meddling in the region's internal affairs, made clear he was ready to ensure the usual interests prevail in the Caribbean nations, as was the United States representative to the bloc.
In the wake of this vile assassination, Haitians must join together to ensure peace and security and to prepare for legislative and presidential elections this year. This is the only way forward. The people of Haiti need democratically elected leaders who can take action to reestablish security, rebuild confidence in the government, and reinvigorate the economy.
Our Organization of American States is grieving today. At the same time, it is more determined than ever to continue working for the Haitian cause. The institutional stability of Haiti must be at the center of our concerns.
More reactions on Moise assassinations are coming in from the Caribbean region.
Disaster of major proportions for a country like Haiti to have, its leader assassinated cold-bloodedly like this. That cannot go unpunished.
In Haiti, they are concerned about tomorrow. They are scared about tomorrow.
Of the situation in Haiti, and since Haiti is a CARICOM member, we all have to be concerned because the whole state of play, what is taking place in Haiti at this time, must be a concern for all peace-loving and democratic-minded persons throughout the entire world.
I spoke to the president on Monday. I I know he was in a very good spirit. He was really adamant to carry out his policies, and particularly the elections. He believes that it's very important for Haiti to hold elections, and he was very concerned as well for the security situation.
Warnings are being issued on the opportunistic use of the events in Haiti by foreign interests. Christopher Bernadel, member of the Haiti Committee for the Human Rights Project, the Black Alliance for Peace, has called for anti-intervention approach on the matter.
The Black Alliance for Peace, our number one position is that of an anti-imperialist position. We would condemn any foreign intervention into Haiti, any foreign intervention by outside powers to come in and influence the process further. The Haitian people are responsible for the country of Haiti, and it is up to them to come in and take responsibility for the country and for the situation. The role of the U.S. in Haiti has been the opposite. They haven't been a stabilizing force. They have been more of an occupying force in Haiti, an interventionist, imperialist force that has tried to control the internal affairs of Haiti through organizations like the UN and the OAS.
The United Nations Security Council plans to hold an emergency meeting Thursday afternoon to discuss Haiti in the wake of President Juvenal Moïse's assassination. Authorities claim the attack was launched by mercenaries posing as agents of the U.S. Drugs Enforcement Administration. In a statement, members unanimously called for all parties to remain calm, exercise restraint, and avoid any act that could contribute to further instability. Meanwhile, Ariel Henry, the newly named prime minister, who had yet not been established, also insists he is the rightful person to lead the country in the aftermath of Moïse killings, not the interim Prime Minister Claude Joseph. The country currently has no functioning parliament, and it is uncertain when or whenever elections slated for the fall will take place. Nicaragua announced a wide-ranging poverty reduction and human development plan for 2022 through 2026. The plan is under discussion in Parliament. The initiative was introduced to the National Assembly on Wednesday. It placed the poor at the center of the government policies, according to Minister of Finance and Public Credit Ivan Acosta. The plan aims to strengthen macroeconomic stability, provide basic living conditions, develop skills, and secure public services such as health and education. We go now to Colombia. Another massacre was confirmed. Authorities found the bodies of 4 victims in the central department of Meta. The remains, 3 women and 1 male, match the descriptions of 4 people reported missing on May 27. Meta is where the first social leader was killed this year. This is the 49th massacre registered in Colombia so far in 2021. We will be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back. United States operatives were able to watch and hear journalist Julian Assange live via streaming when he was inside the Ecuadorian embassy in London. The service was courtesy of the Spanish security firm paid by Ecuador's government to protect the premise. The company, Undercover Global, was happy to break all codes of conduct in order to help its U.S. friends, as its owner, a former military man named David Morales, has acknowledged before Spanish courts. The investigation has produced witness emails and documents proving that not only Assange was under surveillance, but also the diplomatic staff and the ambassador himself. The surveillance finished when Assange was betrayed by Ecuador's President Lenin Moreno and delivered to the British police after 7 years. Assange is currently fighting an extradition request from Washington. The UK High Court has notified the parties involved in Julian Assange's extradition case that the United States government's appeal will be listed for a hearing. The High Court did not allow the United States to appeal any of the factual findings concerning Assange's condition, which led a judge in January to block his extradition on fears his life will be at risk. No date has been set for the hearing. Assange remains behind bars in London's high-security Belmarsh prison.
If the Biden administration is serious about respecting the rule of law, the First Amendment, and of defending global press freedom, the only thing it can do is drop this case. This case is the most vicious attack on global press freedom in history. Criminalizing journalism. Just look at the indictment. They're criminalizing receiving and communicating true information to the public that no one denies was in the public interest, that evidenced war crimes, that evidenced torture, that evidenced illegal rendition.
Uruguay's right-wing government seems determined to break up Mercosur. Montevideo announced it will no longer be bound by the common trade treaty tariffs. Uruguay's announcement precedes the Mercosur summit this Thursday, chaired by Argentina's President Alberto Fernandez, staunch defender of the treaty launched by Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay to strengthen and complement their economies and set better trade negotiation terms. Montevideo said it will now negotiate tariffs separately with trade partners. In response to Uruguay's as the Mercosur summit, Argentine President Alberto Fernandez voiced strong defense of the treaty's strategic aims and principles.
Unity in diversity means, in the case of Mercosur, more dialogue and solidarity. These values transcend the constitution of a common economic space, of a cohesive platform of international insertion in a globalized world. They are basically the pillars that make our people feel like part of that project, citizens with a common identity. It is with more and not less regional integration with which we will be in better conditions of producing and trading, negotiating and competing.
The former director of Brazil Health Ministry, Roberto Diaz, was briefly arrested and freed on bail for perjury before Senate commissions in Brasilia investigating corruption in the acquisition of vaccines. Diaz is accused of demanding $1 bribe for each of some 400,000 doses to be imported.
I do not accept that the ICC is becoming a farce. We have more than 527,000 dead from this pandemic, and the guys are doing deals with vaccines. He's going to jail for lying, for perjury, and if I am abusing my authority, his lawyer or any senator can prosecute me. But he will be detained now for Brazil, because we are here for Brazil, for those who died, for the victims. We are not here to play.
In Italy, Operation Condor is on trial. On Thursday, lawyers of the families of the victims of kidnapping and torture present their testimonies. They are present against military officers that acted during the dictatorships in South America in the 70s and 80s. Likewise, the testimonies of the accused will be heard. The military officers involved were charged with homicide and condemned by Rome's Court of Appeal in 2019. Let's remember the Operation Condor was a United States-based campaign of political repression and state terror against left in Latin America. More than 60,000 people were killed during the 70s and 80s. As a result, right-wing governments were established, which implemented neoliberal policies. China said Thursday the United States should stop slandering the country and overlook its own human rights crimes. The statement comes after rare rejections of a recent U.S. report saying the 17 countries, including China, failed to meet the minimum standard in preventing human trafficking.
In disregard of facts, the U.S. side fabricates such reports full of false information year after year by repeating the old rhetoric to groundlessly attack and smear China. It is hell-bent on advancing its lying diplomacy. China expresses strong dissatisfaction with and firm opposition to this. In this report of 600-plus pages, the U.S. glosses over its own problems with less than half a page. This fully reveals the double standard of the U.S. side of being strict with others while treating itself with leniency. The U.S. has no authority to act as a judge on human rights. It should earnestly reflect on its human rights crimes, including forced labor and human trafficking, stop vilifying others, and stop interfering in other countries' domestic affairs with human rights as a cover.
With Tokyo under a new coronavirus state of emergency, the Olympic Games will take now place without spectators. The country's Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga announced the state of emergency this Thursday in a bid to fight an increase in COVID-19 cases. The state of emergency will begin on Monday, 11 days before the Games open, and end on August 22nd, 2 days before the start of the Paralympics. This is the latest setback for the Tokyo 2020 Summer Olympics that had already been delayed for a year.
It's a real shame that the state of emergency will be taking place at the same time as the Olympics. But to prevent the coronavirus from spreading, we must apply all possible measures.
We have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back. Jacob Zuma, the former president of South Africa, was taken into custody to begin serving a 15-month prison sentence for contempt of court. The sentence was handed down by the Constitutional Court since Zuma refused to testify before a judicial commission investigating the widespread allegation of corruption during his presidential term from 2009 to 2018. Zuma, a former combatant of the African National Congress armed wing, faces 16 charges of fraud related to a 1999 purchase of fighter jets, patrol boats, and military gear from 5 European armed firms.
I'm happy because the rule of law is what we should be guided by, and I'm happy that no one lost their lives or there was no violence, but him going to jail is better for the country because it shows everyone that no one is above the law, and ultimately we must follow what the Constitution says for all of us.
You know, the law applies equally to me, to you, every other citizen. There cannot be a separate law applicable to an ex-president. And unfortunately, he's got a lot to answer for in the state capture inquiry. By conservative amounts, 49 billion rand has been looted from the country. Others say it's even more. Can you imagine what the ANC government could have done with 49 billion rand?
Egypt's Foreign Minister Ahmed Saouri urged the UN Security Council to adopt a resolution giving international clout to efforts to resolve a dispute over Ethiopia's new hydroelectric dam on the Blue Nile. Egypt and Sudan have appealed to the Security Council to intervene in the dispute and to help the countries avert the crisis. Egypt, which relies on the Nile for more than 90% of its water supplies and already faces high water stress, fears a devastating impact on its booming population of 100 million. Sudan, which also depends on the Nile for water, has played a key role in bringing the two sides together.
All of the three countries should commit themselves to not taking any unilateral actions. Unfortunately, the Ethiopians have informed us officially that they have undergone the second unilateral filling of the reservoir, which is a violation of their commitment under the 2015 declarations of principles that deemed it necessary before the filling of the reservoir that an agreement is reached. But in any case, we believe that any further actions should be restricted until the conclusion of an agreement.
A container ship anchored in Dubai caught fire, causing an explosion that sends tremors across the commercial hub and the United Arab Emirates. The blast unleashed a shockwave through the city, shaking buildings and windows in neighborhoods as far as 25 kilometers away from the port. Early Thursday, the Dubai government issued a statement saying that emergency service had brought the blaze under control. The event of damage caused to the port and surrounding cargo was not immediately clear. The port is not only a critical global cargo hub, but a lifeline for Dubai and surrounding Emirates, serving as the point for entry for essential imports. 3 rockets were fired at the United States Embassy in Iraq this early Thursday. Base hosting U.S. force has been attacked with rockets and drones the day before. According to the Iraqi army, the embassy itself was not hit, but 3 nearby places in Baghdad's heavily fortified green zones were. U.S. forces, who had more than 2,000 troops deployed in Iraq, have been targeted almost 50 times this year. But the last few days has seen an increase in the frequency of strikes. In the previous incidents, 14 rockets were fired and at Airbus hosting the U.S. troops in the western province of Anbar, causing minor injuries to 2 personnels. Continuing their takeover of Afghanistan, Taliban fighters pushed their way into a provincial capital in the northwest region, freeing prisoners and threatening to overrun the city itself. The assault of Kuala Enau is the latest in the Taliban's recent offensive, which began as the United States and North Atlantic Treaty Organization troops began withdrawing from the country. In the span of just over 2 months, the Taliban have managed to seize more than 150 of Afghanistan's 400 districts. These recent Taliban's victories have put the Afghan government in a difficult position, with more than 1,000 Afghan troops fleeing into neighboring Tajikistan. Dozens of angry protesters clashed with police in Kenyan capital of Nairobi as they demand an end to lockdowns and curfews put in place to fight the spread of the coronavirus. Demonstrators also call for an end to what they say has been police brutality in the country, especially towards young people. Police respond to the demonstrations by shooting live bullets into the air and throwing tear gas. Kenyan authorities have currently imposed a nationwide curfew from 10 p.m. until 4 a.m. as part of restrictions to combat the spread of COVID-19. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. For Telesur English, I am Janet Perez Moya. Thank you for watching.